Have you ever found yourself in a season where you were constantly tired, run down, or even spiraling into negativity and responding to everyone like Oscar the Grouch? Maybe it's time to invest in a little self-care and fill up your tank before you get back out on the road again. Stay tuned as we talk about our next spoke on the wheel of life, implementing much-needed self-care into your life. Hey, beautiful dreamer. Have you ever heard the analogy about holding a cup of coffee when suddenly someone comes along and bumps into you, making you spill your coffee everywhere? So why did you spill the coffee? You're probably thinking, well, Carolina, because someone bumped into me. Wrong answer. Actually, you spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your cup. Had there been tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea, because whatever is inside the cup is what will spill out. Consequently, when life comes along and bumps into you or shakes you up, which I promise you will happen, whatever is inside of you is going to come out. And it's easy to fake it until you get rattled. So, my question for you today, beautiful dreamer, is what's in your cup? When life gets tough, what spills over? Is it joy, gratefulness, peace, and humility? Or is it anger, bitterness, harsh words, and reactions? Life provides the cup, but you choose how to fill it. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the next spoke on our wheel of life, which is the importance of leisure and self-care for a well-balanced life. Okay. First of all, I would like to start out by helping you define leisure and self-care in the context of our day-to-day lives. There are so many misconceptions out there about what self-care truly is, when the fact of the matter is that it encompasses so many facets of your life, which is actually similar to taking care of or ignoring the different areas of your vehicle. For example, if you neglect to change the oil in your car, eventually it is going to break down. And if you neglect filling it up with gas, it's going to eventually come to a halt. You get the idea. What I'm trying to help you recognize is that there are things that we ignore giving attention to in our lives. But eventually, there is going to be a result if you fail to intentionally address them. This is why giving attention to self-care and even leisure activities is a crucial part of the wheel of life. Okay, our timeless truth for today comes from the self-care coach, Eleanor Brown, and she says, rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow, because you can't serve from an empty vessel. I don't know about you, beautiful dreamer, but I can imagine that you and I may have similar pressures in our weekly or even daily lives, which only emphasize the importance of making time for relaxation and rejuvenation, which is practically the definition of self-care. You know, for the past few years, unfortunately, there has been a rising awareness of mental and emotional health because it's due to the rise in stress of anxiety in all ages. Even our children. In fact, a recent survey of adults showed that 43% of them are more anxious than they were a year ago. And these percentages have been increasing year after year. And remember, I talked about our kids? Did you know that 64% of teens from the ages of 12 to 17 reported feeling the world is way more stressful now than when their parents were their age? I think I'm in that number. Unfortunately, you probably rarely give much thought to how leisure and self-care play such a crucial role in combating your stress and anxiety and your emotional well-being. So let's discuss exactly what we're talking about when we refer to leisure and self-care. Leisure is much more than just free time. Some examples of incorporating leisure into your life can include your hobbies, recreational activities that you participate in, even socializing, as well as much needed downtime. Self-care, on the other hand, encompasses so much more than just pampering. It also includes physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual self-care practices, such as taking care of your body with massages and stretching, Epsom salt baths, journaling, meditation, etc. Now, the benefits of leisure and self-care can improve your mental health by reducing your stress and anxiety, improving your mood, and promoting your emotional well-being. And let's not forget the physical health benefits, which will include better sleep, lowering your blood pressure, and it can even enhance your immune function, which means that it can keep you from getting sick. By implementing self-care, people have experienced improved productivity and creativity because rest and relaxation will contribute to better focus and problem-solving abilities. And let's not forget the social and relationship benefits, which include strengthening our connections through shared activities and meaningful downtime, as well as improving communication by reducing stress-related reactive responses. Remember the Oscar the Grouch? Okay, have you barked out any responses lately? You know what I'm talking about. All right, now let's talk about the most common barriers to prioritizing leisure and self-care. Because if we're not incorporating them, we need to recognize what the barriers are. First of all, time constraints. Ironically, we are stressed out because of busy schedules, work pressures, family commitments, and yet we can't carve out the time to deal with the stress that is the result of those things. The second barrier stems from perceived guilt and perfectionism, which is the constant feeling that you should be doing something more productive. This can also stem from people-pleasing, when you feel like you can't take a break for yourself because you should be doing something productive all the time. Or that you could do a better job at whatever you're currently working on, which could be anything from a work-related project or keeping a perfectly clean house, etc. No one here is trying to keep up with the Joneses. Actually, I had a huge self-care win in my life recently because I love the holidays and family time, and especially decorating. But because of me not wanting to push myself into a time constraint, I wasn't able to put out some table decorations, and please don't tell anyone. I didn't have time to vacuum the living room. Surprisingly, not one person noticed that the living room wasn't vacuumed. And no one died for the lack of decor on the dining room table. Because of my intentional decisions, I was able to enjoy a stress-free holiday. Doesn't that sound amazing? Okay, our third barrier is simply a lack of awareness, not recognizing the importance of rest and downtime for overall well-being, which is exactly why you're listening to this podcast right now. And we're going to make intentional goals so that you'll be totally aware of your self-care and leisure needs. And finally, is the obstacle of overcommitment, which is simply struggling to say no and taking on way too many obligations. Actually, it's a close second to the guilt and perfectionism obstacle we talked about earlier. Remember the comparison to your vehicle? If you're not carving out time for yourself, eventually there will be a breakdown, or you're going to run out of gas. Maybe not now, but eventually. If this obstacle stood out for you, I would love to recommend the book, The Best Yes, by Lisa TerKeurst. It's life-changing for those of us who have problems saying no. Okay. Now let's talk about some practical tips for incorporating leisure and self-care into your daily life. First of all, we don't want to add to the overwhelm. So we're going to start small. Schedule some small breaks into your life. Engage in some quick mindfulness activities, or even take up a mini hobby, okay? Not those long-term projects. Make time for activities you enjoy. Here's an idea. Why not set a date with yourself in your calendar? That way, if something comes up, you will have the ability to say no without guilt because you've already made a commitment to yourself. Use this time that you committed to yourself to rediscover hobbies that maybe you've set aside or to explore some new interests. Hey, remember those things we talked about in our intellectual goals about trying something new? This is a great place for that. Or what about intentionally making space for social interactions, like meeting a friend that you haven't seen in a while for lunch or coffee? This is also a great time for learning how to set boundaries, which looks like learning to say no and managing your time more effectively, giving yourself more self compassion. Try letting go of perceived guilt and prioritizing your personal well being without judgment. We're usually so hard on ourselves. Learn to incorporate small windows of mindfulness and relaxation techniques into your day or week, such as breathing exercises, meditation on scriptures, stretching, Pilates, or my favorite, journaling. Then begin to get clear on what you need and don't be afraid to implement it as a routine. When you find what works, make leisure and self-care a non-negotiable part of your daily or weekly schedule. Okay, now I'm going to share with you some creative ideas for leisure activities and some self-care practices for you to use as you begin to set your goals for this spoke on the wheel. Some leisure activities may be embarking on an outdoor adventure, maybe a weekend getaway, or if you haven't had one in a long time, go on a vacation. Get creative with little arts and crafts. Engage in sports, reading a new book, cooking, etc. Some self-care practices could be skincare rituals, a digital detox, taking a walk, getting a manicure, pedicure, or having a spa day, maybe even volunteering. Try incorporating some group leisure activities like game nights, movie marathons, fitness classes, or getting together socially with your friends. Now, I want to quickly touch on the impact of technology in leisure and self-care. Although there are many positive uses of technology, such as reading apps, fitness trackers, online courses, etc., there are also so many potential downsides. Screen addiction and light contribute to sleep deprivation. Try to avoid screen burnout. Balance social media use with real-world interactions. Now, I know we're living in a time where we feel we just can't live without technology. Just be mindful that it isn't the thing that's draining your battery. Okay, once you've incorporated one or two of these things into your routine, you will subtly begin to notice the long-term impact of prioritizing leisure and self-care, such as a renewed, sustained well-being, which is going to lead you to recognize how consistent self-care can contribute to your long-term health and happiness. And do you know that these practices are also crucial in helping you build resilience? In fact, I'd love to do a whole podcast just on building resilience. Okay, eventually, you're going to have a greater capacity to handle stress, setbacks, and challenges. Remember that teacup we talked about at the beginning? This is also going to lead to overall satisfaction with your life instead of the stress and negativity that tends to build up after years of neglecting yourself. And you're going to finally be creating a balanced lifestyle that nurtures both your professional success as well as your personal fulfillment. You know, even the greatest servant leader of all time made self-care a priority as he would go off by himself to a quiet place to pray. Because remember our timeless truth that we can't serve from an empty vessel. And if you're still feeling a little overwhelmed, beautiful dreamer, remember, start small, embrace much needed rest, and be encouraged with this promise from Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, where he invites us to come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Jesus is where the best self-care can be found. So, I'm curious, what small action are you going to incorporate today to make time for yourself? Now, I want to encourage you with a little call to action. I would like to invite you to share your favorite self-care routines or leisure activities in the comments below. And if you don't have one at the moment, please share the goal that you are making a commitment to setting today. And if you've recognized that those statistics of stress and anxiety are prevalent all around you, I know I've seen it in my own life, please share this episode with your friends and coworkers and invite them to journey alongside of you in setting self-care goals. Because, beautiful dreamer, we were never created to live a reactive life, but to live proactively and to recognize that happily ever after isn't a lie.